In today's video, we are going to be talking about the new endgame mode that we will be seeing very soon in Honkai Star Rail, which is going to be Pure Fiction, and Pure Fiction will be landing in 2 days and 15 hours. So we are super close to the opening of this mode, and it's going to be a very cool thing to have because this has been something we've been asking for in regards to a infinite mode where we can just keep on killing enemies non-stop until a certain amount of rounds happen. So this is going to be really cool. Another thing that I do want to mention with this mode is that with this mode, a certain path is going to shine very greatly, and I mean a path that we haven't seen in the light for a very long time, up until recent with Ruin May coming out, and this path is going to be Erudition for sure, just because this class or this path has so many characters that are able to do follow-up attacks that hit the whole wave, that are able to do a fat ton of AoE or out of turn damage. That's just going to abide so well with this mode. Now Pure Fiction is going to be a never-ending mode with 1 elite, so there is going to be 4 trash mobs, 1 elite, so you do have to do the damage somewhere, but these 4 trash mobs are going to help us inflict a couple of buffs, a couple of debuffs, and help us out along the way, and probably trigger a lot of these units that we have follow-up attacks. So yeah, these Erudition units are going to be absolutely nasty. Now, one quick thing before we start talking about Pure Fiction even more, we are going to be seeing Pure Fiction overlap with Memory of Chaos, so don't worry, you don't have to worry about MLC changing right now or leaving. You got to start doing it right now. No, we are going to have it for a whole month still. It's still going to be here for a very long time. It's going to be Memory of Chaos and Pure Fiction out at the same time, and then while Pure Fiction is out, we're going to get another Memory of Chaos. So don't worry, you don't have to rush, we're all good. Another thing to also take note is that we are going to be getting a brand new Lynx and a brand new free version of Lynx for all players. So yes, we are going to be getting either an Eidolon for people that already have her, or we're going to end up seeing a lot of new players get a bunch of one of the better sustains in the game for sure, just because I have already, if you haven't seen it already in a video, solo sustained with Lynx and MLC 12. So yes, she can take on some of the hardest content for sure. So she's a very great sustain that's going to abide you well. So it's really nice that we are going to be getting her. You do obtain her after doing stage 2 of Pure Fiction, so that's all really cool stuff. Now before we get more into Pure Fiction and talking about what we're going to be talking about today, make sure to leave a sub and a like on the video. I appreciate every single one's support for getting me to 20k. It means a lot, and let's hope to get even more in this coming year. But let's go ahead and start with the video. So for Pure Fiction, as I said before, Erudition units are just going to be stomping on this mode 400%, just because they have so much AoE. The follow-up attacks are mostly all hitting, and they do a pretty good amount of damage under the right conditions. So this mode is going to require you to take 2 teams in, just like MOC. So I thought for a second, I don't know why in my head I thought it was going to be just 1 team for this, but no, it is going to be 2 teams, and you do have to pick a buff after you finish making your team. So we are going to be talking about those buffs, and we're going to be talking about the overall archetype of the Pure Fiction modes, because right now we do have 2 that they did show us, and I'm not 100% sure if they are going to be these 2 when they come out, or if they are going to be planned in the future. But it would be weird that they showed us an exact buff and what it does on the stream without giving us that. But I guess you can prepare general units for the next Pure Fictions, and we can just go ahead and start talking about how it works. So the first buff of Pure Fiction is going to be when allies use ultimate to attack targets, inflict shatter that goes up to 6 stacks, and at the start of a round or when the target is eliminated, deal damage to adjacent targets and main targets. So those who have shatter on them, when they get hit with that ultimate, you are going to be seeing them explode basically and be able to damage units around them. It's going to clear up the trash mobs very quickly. This is also going to damage the main target, which is going to be that 1 elite that's standing in the middle, a good amount of times, making it easy for you to just go ahead and beat him down as well. Now basically, looking at this buff, we are going to be looking at characters that have all hitting ultimates. That way you inflict shatter on all these characters as much as possible. Now I'm not 100% sure if it's just that 1 hit, or if it's that mechanic where if the ultimate does multiple hits in one go, it counts as those stacks. So right now we don't know that 100%, but there are a couple of units we can look at when it comes to all hitting ultimates that will affect the whole wave, so you can get that shatter on everyone. Characters like Argenti, possibly even Kafka, depending on how squishy the actual mobs are in the trash mobs, that might be a possibility. Fu Xuan can do it, but there's no damage behind it. Well can actually act as a sustain in this mode if these units don't hit as hard, and it is all hitting, and he does increase damage dealt to all the enemies on a percentage chance on his ult. So this is a really cool thing. Himiko 1000% is going to be a very great option. All hitting, all able to follow up attack. And say you did have a team that has matching weakness with Himiko, or you have a matching weakness on the enemy that kind of coincides with Himiko, oh my god, is the amount of shield breaking and follow-ups that Himiko is going to do non-stop is going to be so satisfying. I cannot wait to use her in this mode. It's going to be so funny. Jinyuin also has a all-hitting ult. The only problem is his main source of damage is going to be his lightning lord, and you kind of are racing against the clock with these cycles ticking down being as how many you get, so that might be a little bit problematic. We'll have to see. Gwenaifen also has a all-hitting ult. Pella has an all-hitting ult, but is going to be defense shred on top of it with no damage. And same thing with Gwenaifen, is going to be a little bit of damage, but with some damage buffs to it. QQ also has an all-hitting ult, Serval has an all-hitting ult, and Herta has an all-hitting ult. Now, a lot of the characters in this thing are the characters that do have an all-hitting ult, but for the characters that are going to thrive on this buff immensely are going to be characters like Argenti, because Argenti for sure has a crazy damage ult, can stack up to 2 ults, or even just pop that one really strong one to get rid of that elite. He also has a skill that gives him a fat ton of energy when it comes to hitting all the enemies that will be on the field. And seeing from the footage here, it seems like they don't have a lot of health on them, so he's able to just non-stop clear waves as he's trying to get his ult. So we're gonna have to see how this is gonna abide well with other erudition units, but Argenti is 1000% gonna be one of the MVPs in this mode. Himiko has an adjacent hitting skill, which is gonna be fine when hitting the elite with the trash mobs, so that's gonna help you whittle them down, but she's mainly there as the sub DPS most likely for a lot of different teams, because when you do end up breaking 3 shields, she will come in and just do the follow-up attack and possibly clear up every single one of those trash mobs. And she has the all-hitting ult, which will inflict shatter and can do a good amount of damage, and she gets a refund when she kills enemies with that ultimate. So there's a lot of really cool things that come with having Himiko on the team. Herta as well, really good. She has an all-hitting skill, all-hitting ult. She also has a follow-up attack that procs on 50% and under health, and if you have a really invested Herta and you get the right HP on everyone at the same time, she can spin like a billion times and get so much damage in that yes, those trash mobs will be gone at the end of the day. Well, can help as a sustain for your team if these units don't hit absurdly hard, because you can delay them with his slow, with this ultimate delay, and that will end up helping not only inflict shatter on them, but that also will help them take more damage from the side effect that comes with this ultimate. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can get with. Well, Pella might be really great on this mode as well, just because it will be an AoE defense shred, and it will be also giving shatter on top of them with this effect that we've been talking about. And then QQ as well, adjacent hitting, and can be very hard hitting for the ultimate and the normal attacks that you will be getting when it's enhanced. The only problem is you probably do want a well invested QQ to be able to min max the damage you might or might not be doing, with being unlucky with the skill points, and also that she's very skill point hungry. And then Serval, if she is super invested in as well, she could probably do a really nice amount of damage, because her basic is slightly adjacent, like half adjacent, her skill is full adjacent, and then also her ultimate is all hitting. So depending on these characters that you have on your account, these will probably be the best characters that you could use in Pure Fiction with this specific buff in mind. In general use for a bunch of the characters that will be there, a lot of the supports like Asta, Ting Yun, Rune Mei, Bronya, these for sure will be characters that will be on every team most likely for the Pure Fiction mode. And characters like Himiko, Herta, Pella, these characters as well will probably just fit in every side no matter what happens and no matter what buff is there, just because of the amount of value they give and the utility that they give when being in the Pure Fiction mode with all these trash mobs. Now with the supports I listed and with the other general units you might use, there are going to be some constraints that you don't want to have units that are slow or backloaded, because you are racing against the cycles to try to get as many enemies down and as many enemies taken out of the game before your cycles end up using. So delaying enemies won't be as useful as being able to take another turn or advanced forwarding, so make sure to be mindful of that. And when looking at the buffs that are the side buffs that you can pick when using your teams, there are ones that are better than the others, and I'm just going to go ahead and say them. As I said, we don't know if these are actually what we're going to be getting the first time around. If it is, well, you have a quick guide on how to beat Pure Fiction. If not, that's going to be weird, and I'll also have to make another guide for that. But looking at the buffs for Pure Fiction, one of them is going to be when using ultimate, inflict shatter twice on them. This is really good for basically everyone. You're going to be giving them an extra stack on them, and especially with an all-hitting ult, you're going to be giving a lot more shatter stacks to everyone, making everyone take more damage when they get downed or when it ends up being their turn. So this is overall just a really good buff for everyone. The second buff is kind of mid, I'm not going to lie to you, which is receive 1 shatter stack on entrance. And this overall just doesn't abide well with a lot of the things that are in this mode. Getting a shatter stack is really nice when you come in, but the ultimate's already going to give you one. You're also going to be getting more with your ultimate with the first buff. So I would 100% kind of advise against this one, because 1 stack isn't really going to do anything if you are going to be looking at the enemies that will be coming out. And for the amount that you will be messing up, you are going to get a lot of energy back from it. So I really don't think the second one is as good compared to the first one, and especially looking at the third one, which is going to be when enemy targets with Shadow are defeated, perma buff your ultimate damage for all allies in this battle, stacking 15% 20 times. So that third one is possibly going to be the strongest buff out of the three, and 100% the one you do want to put on your weakest team, just because your ultimate damage will be able to skyrocket with this buff, and this is overall just going to allow you to do so much more damage with that team, kind of helping people that don't have a well invested second team. This buff is going to be overall really amazing. Now the next thing we're going to be looking at is the dot side of MOC, which is going to be when enemies take dots, they advance forward, but they do weaker damage. So we already know right now that Kafka is by far going to be one of the best units for this 100%. But the only problem right now is that we don't have a lot of dot units to be able to take use of this. If we are only getting one side of the MOC or one side of Pure Fiction, and it is the AoE version of it with the ultimates, then I'm assuming that we might get this dot one possibly either with what our next Pure Fiction is going to be, or when Black Swan comes out, potentially if she is a dot unit. So that might be what happens with the dot side of pure fiction. And looking at the characters that are going to work with this 100% are going to be characters like Kafka, of course, because Detonate, her own shock with her ultimate, there's a lot of stuff that goes with Kafka is going to make her absolutely one of the most broken characters for this side of pure fiction. And then we also have Sampo, AoE, also dot buff on his ultimate, all hitting on his ultimate. And they have Gwenifin, same thing. You also have the skill that's really good with the AoE. We have the ultimate that's all hitting. And then Luca, the only problem with Luca is sadly he is full on single target, and for a mode like this where you want as much AoE as possible, we might as well be building other units that have AoE capabilities as a physical unit, and then breaking with them and building them on break effect. So something funny like Clara, something funny like Argenti possibly might happen. I think honestly we might have to just brute force one side of Pure Fiction, just due to the fact that we don't have a lot of dot characters to be able to build two full-on teams. So that kind of sucks when it comes to being able to build out teams for this. And I know a lot of people won't have always the matching units for the buff. A lot of it does comes down to what units do you have that can do AoE, and what units can actually proc a lot of their conditions with the follow-up attacks, with the damage that they're able to do with AoE into certain teams. So you don't have to fully match it like having a Kafka 100%, but you should want to have something that correlates with it. Like you want to have an all-hitting ultimate, slap in Pella, slap in Fushuen maybe, slap in your Himiko, or maybe even your Herta, because I know everyone does have Herta, and Herta for sure is going to be someone that is gonna basically be in everyone's teams. I think she's gonna be super meta in this mode, just because how much damage she can do when there is multiple enemies on the field, and especially ones that take a lot of damage very easily. She is going to be absolutely insane. Now for the buffs that come with the dot side of Pure Fiction, the first one is going to be when taking dot damage, adjacent units also take it. Of course, characters like Kafka are really going to love this buff, so you want to use this buff with Kafka 1000%. The second buff is going to be inflict wind shear on an enemy when attacked. This is basically going to be good on any side that doesn't have Sampo on it. It's going to allow you to trigger wind shear when you don't have him on it with Kafka, or just overall have wind shear on these enemies period, just so that you can apply the debuff to them. I think this one's also really great depending on what characters you're going to use. And then the third one does allow for a no sustain team, which is going to be lowest HP ally when enemy takes dot damage and advance forward them. This is overall great for any team that's just not going to run a full-on sustain and just go brute force with full damage that's AoE. This is going to allow you to do some crazy stuff in this mode for sure. But that's all we are seeing in regards to Pure Fiction. This looks like a really fun mode, and I basically outlined majority of the units that you can use when talking about the both sides of Pure Fiction. I don't know if they're going to give us both side effects at the same time. I probably have to look back at it during the stream, or just overall see when it comes out, because it does come out very soon. Or we're just going to have to see that if we do only get one side, or maybe neither, when are they going to come out? I do think the ultimate one might be our first one if there isn't two sides of Pure Fiction at the start. And if we do get the dot one, that might come in 2.0 most likely, possibly Sparkle and Black Swan. We'll have to see. But other than that, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. Let me know if you are going to be trying to try hard in Pure Fiction and get the highest score, or you're just going to try to pick up your Lynx, get your Jades, and get out of there. I'm really excited to see all the Hertas, all the Himikos getting built up for preparation for this event, because I do think those two are going to be absolutely insane for this mode. And then of course, looking at all the different team builds and all the different crazy buffs we can look at when looking at Pure Fiction and the buffs that they give. Because if you've seen Genshin in their events with their buffs, something like how Child works with that little Riptide thing where it just kills all the enemies in one go and it infinitely goes until for some reason there's an elite that stops the chain. I want to see stuff like that. I want to see Himiko go infinitely, and same thing with Herta. So other than that, thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. Make sure to leave a sub and a like on the the video if you enjoyed this little guide and talk about Pure Fiction. But on that, thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the next one, and peace.